Outline Seoul, Vance, Kim, Global Headquarters, Boardroom, 9 a.m. At the far end of a 50-foot black marble conference table, Amara Vance sat alone. She wore a white suit like armor on a battlefield. She was the only woman in the room, and the only outsider. Quarterly profits are up 15%, she said, her voice cold and precise. Next item. Director Han gave a greasy smile and slid over a gossip magazine. The headline read, "The Lonely Queen. Is Amara Vance too emotional to lead?" "The shareholders are concerned, Chairwoman. A single woman. A foreigner. That suggests instability. Unless you can prove you have a stable family." He paused. "Next Friday, we'll vote to remove you." Amara didn't blink. "You want me to get married? In 1 week?" "We want stability. Find a husband, or find a new job." The meeting adjourned. Amara walked out, her hands shaking.
Back in her office, her secretary, Seo-joon, jumped up in panic. Papers scattered across the floor. Crash.
"Oh, I'm so sorry, Chairwoman. I'm so clumsy today." He wore thick glasses and a beige cardigan stained with coffee. He looked soft, harmless, easy to control.
Amara stared at him. Desperation in her eyes hardened into resolve. Seo-joon. She stepped forward, grabbed his tie, and pulled it tight.
"Are you free this Saturday?" I was going to water my plants. Cancel the plants." Her voice allowed no argument. "This Saturday? You're marrying me? $5 million. I slapped the check onto the redwood desk, my voice perfectly calm. Plus a penthouse in Gangnam, and the position of Chief Operations Director at Vance Group.
Kim Seo-joon stood across from me, still clutching the pile of documents I had knocked from his arms. His glasses slid down his nose. He looked like a startled hamster.
"Chairwoman, what does this mean? A bride price," I said, stepping closer, my heels thudding softly into the carpet. "Or a buyout?"
He blinked, something unreadable flashing behind the thick lenses.
"A buyout of me buying your life, or at least the part where you're my husband." I hooked a finger into his cheap beige cardigan and frowned.
You need someone to help pay off your father's gambling debts.
I need an obedient puppet to silence the board. It's fair. Seo-joon shrank back until his spine had the bookshelf. "And if I refuse?" "Then you can pack up and leave right now," I said with a cold laugh. "In this industry, one word for me, and no one will ever hire you." It was cruel. I knew that. But I had no choice.
"I'm Amara Vance. I'm the queen of this business empire. I will not be dragged down over something as ridiculous as being single."
Kim Seo-joon lowered his head. He was silent for a long time, so long that I thought he might explode or break down.
"I have 3 conditions." His voice had changed. It no longer trembled. There was an odd calm to it.
"Go on. First, we live together. If we're acting, we do it properly. Reasonable. Second, I keep my job as your secretary. I won't be operations director." I raised a brow. "You enjoy being ordered around?" "I'm used to it," he said, adjusting his glasses. "Third, no matter how busy you are, you come home every night for dinner. I'll cook." I froze. What kind of condition was that deal? I turned to grab the confidentiality agreement, not seeing him behind me. His long fingers brushed lightly over the wrinkled tie I'd grabbed earlier. a faint, amused curve touching his lips. Just then the office door flew open. Director Han's greasy face appeared in the doorway. "Wow, look at our queen still struggling to find a man," he sneered, striding in. His gaze swept contemptuously over Kim Seo-joon. "What? Betting on this piece of trash?" "Amara, your taste keeps getting worse." I clenched my fists, about to speak. Kim Seo-joon moved first. Holding a freshly brewed cup of coffee, he seemed to trip on the carpet and pitched forward. "Ah! Careful splash!" Scalding black coffee poured all over Director Han's expensive Italian leather shoes. "You idiots! Are you blind?" Director Han screamed, raising his hand to strike. I instinctively stepped in front of Seo-joon, but he was faster than I was. He crouched down as if in fear, arms over his head, his shoulder just happening to slam into the inside of Director Han's knee. Director Han lost his balance and went down hard, sprawled on the floor. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm too stupid." Seo-joon lay on the ground, shaking, his voice full of terror. Director Han scrambled up, shot us a vicious glare, and stormed out, cursing. The moment the door closed, I looked at Kim Seo-joon, still lying on the floor.
"That angle just now was really an accident."
"Seo-joon," I called. He looked up, his eyes clear and innocent. "Chairwoman, did I mess things up while I pushed down the strange feeling in my chest?" "No." He did very well. Na Trung Damdong, an elite bridal salon. I sat on a velvet sofa with a tablet in hand, reviewing the financial reports for the next quarter. "Pick the most expensive one," I said to the stylist without looking up. "Don't let him look like a college kid who just moved to the city."
"Yes, Miss Vance."
The curtain was drawn. I rubbed my temples.
"This was just a transaction."
I kept telling myself that.
Kim Seo-joon was just a tool.
A decoy.
As long as I got through next week's shareholders meeting, everything would be fine.
"Chairwoman?"
A low voice sounded. I lifted my head absent-mindedly. The tablet in my hand slipped and hit the floor with a sharp crack. The curtain was pulled open. The Tomit secretary was gone. Standing there was a man in a midnight blue tailored suit, without the thick glasses. His features were sharp and striking, straight brows, clear eyes, a defined nose. His hair was slicked back, revealing a broad forehead. The habitual air of hunched humility had vanished, replaced by a natural elegance, even a faint sense of pressure. He walked toward me, each step landing squarely on my heartbeat. "What is it?" He stopped in front of me, leaned down slightly, and adjusted my crooked collar with long fingers. "Chairwoman, are you satisfied with your investment?" His breath brushed my ear, carrying a light cedar scent. My breathing caught, and I forgot to step back. "You... looks like you are." He chuckled softly, stepped back half a pace, and returned to his obedient demeanor. The stylist said this fit best. The wedding photo shoot that followed was a complete disaster. Groom, closer, even closer. Bride, smile. "Don't look like you're signing a murder agreement." The photographer shouted in despair. I stood there stiffly, uncomfortable from head to toe. Suddenly a large hand wrapped around my waist. The heat of his palm seeped through the thin fabric of the wedding dress, making me shiver. "Don't move," Kim Seo-joon murmured by my ear, so softly only the two of us could hear. Do you know why Director Han always wears those leather shoes? Why? I asked without thinking. Because they're lifts. He's got 3 insoles inside. Last time he fell, I saw one of them fly out. I couldn't hold it in. I burst out laughing. In that instant, I forgot this was a deal. Forgot he was my subordinate. The flash went off. The image froze on me laughing with my head tilted back, and him looking down at me with indulgent warmth. That night, we moved into the penthouse apartment. Kim Seo-joon took over the kitchen with ease. Soon, the rich aroma of braised ribs filled the entire place. It was my mother's flavor. I sat at the dining table, watching his busy figure in the kitchen, and for a moment felt an illusion of quiet, ordinary happiness. "Try it," he said, setting the plate down. I took a bite. It melted in my mouth. "You're a good cook. I used to make it often for family." His gaze flickered. "What about your parents?" I asked casually. His movements paused. In that split second, the gentle look in his eyes turned dark and cold, as if he were someone else entirely. But it passed immediately. My father was a gambler. He ran off a long time ago. My mother passed away. His tone was flat. Then at night, I got up for some water. As I passed the balcony, I heard hushed voices. Kim Seo-joon stood with his back to me under the moonlight, a phone in his hand. "No, liquidate the assets in Lyon immediately. I want it done before dawn." Fluent French, a cold voice, the posture of someone used to giving orders. This was nothing like a timid secretary. This was a ruler issuing commands. I held my breath, my heart pounding. He ended the call and turned around. The moment he saw me, the chill on his face melted away, replaced by that harmless, puppy-like expression. "Chairwoman, did I wake you? I was using Duolingo to study French. Was my pronunciation okay?" I looked at him. My palms slick with sweat. Very accurate. Back in my room, I took a dagger from the drawer and slid it under my pillow. I still have a window so broad, so right. Impeccable. And my bracket 모르는 예매샤마세. Jin Rui-gun after the wedding. Public opinion flipped overnight. Ice Queen melts. Who is Amara Vance's mysterious husband? The trending searches were flooded with that photo of us in the bridal shop. At the office, Jin Rui-gun was still the same secretary who poured tea and ran errands. At home, he was the perfect husband. So perfect it was frightening.
"The chips are stuck at Tianjin port. If they don't clear them, next month's product launch is finished." The head of legal was drenched in sweat. I stared at the map, overwhelmed.
This was the Jin group pulling strings behind the scenes, using their connections to block our shipment. "Coffee chair, woman." Jin Rui-gun walked in and set the cup down. As if by accident, his finger traced across the map and stopped on an obscure clause marked Tianjin Free Trade Zone.
Huh. What does Clause 14 mean? It seems to say the transshipment within the free trade zone isn't subject to standard restrictions.
The legal director froze, then grabbed the documents. 10 minutes later, he jumped up in excitement. "My God, it works! It's a loophole! We can bypass the inspection through transshipment." I snapped my gaze to Seo-joon. He was lowering his head, wiping the table, looking completely innocent. How did you know about this cause? I demanded. His ears turned red. I read it in an old magazine at the barber shop last time. I just have a good memory. At the celebration dinner, I drank too much. The pressure from the Jin group was suffocating me. The company my father left behind was hanging by a thread. Jin Ru-jun carried me home on his back. His back was broad and warm. Ru-jun, I murmured against his shoulder, my mind hazy. Don't betray me. I have no one else but you. I felt his steps falter. Go to sleep, Amara. His voice rough. I won't betray you. At the door. He set me down, but I lost my balance and fell into his arms. Our breaths tangled. Under the influence of alcohol, my reason snapped. I kissed him. I thought he would push me away, or shrink back like before, but he didn't. He held the back of my head and took control. The kiss was no longer restrained. It was intense, filled with hunger, even carrying a hint of desperate madness. Like a final farewell, the next morning, I was lurking up to an empty bed. On the nightstand was a prepared breakfast and a note. I went to water the plants. I touched the sheets, still warm, and a trace of sweetness rose in my chest. Just then, my phone rang. It was an email from the private investigator. I opened it, and my pupils shrank. Miss Vance, I can't find any real record of Jin Rigujun's past. His entire file is fabricated. But I did track his financial transactions. For the past 3 months, his account has had frequent large transfers with the Jin group. The Jin group, the enemy who drove my father to his death, and now was trying to swallow us whole. The phone slipped from my hand. The cold flooded my body. I rushed to the company. Jin Rigujun didn't come to work. The office doors were shoved open. Director Han barged in with a group of people. Victorious sneer on his face. Ready to step down, my queen. Ready to step down, my queen. What kind of madness are you talking about? I forced myself to stay calm and sat in that chair that symbolized power. Take a look at this.
Director Han pressed the remote. The large screen in the conference room lit up. A photo appeared. Jin Ru-jun, dressed in that midnight blue suit, stood beside the chairman of the Jin group, the old man known as the Crocodile. The two of them raised champagne glasses, smiling and chatting like close allies. The next image was a document, proof that the Vance group's core secrets had been leaked to the Jin group. The sender's IP address was traced to my office.
You married the son of your father's killer, Director Han roared, spit flying. He's the long-lost third heir of the Jin family. He stayed by your side all this time, for this very day. That is impossible.
My hamster, I pull out my phone and call Henry Chen.
No answer. The shareholders' meeting is being live-streamed, Director Han sneered. Amara, you're finished. You invited a wolf into the house and destroyed the company. I stood accused by everyone. Camera flashes stabbed at my eyes like blades. Just then, the doors were pushed open again. The room fell silent. Jin Ru-jun walked in. He was no longer wearing that ridiculous beige cardigan, nor those thick framed glasses. He was dressed in a custom Jin Group suit, followed by the top legal team of the Jin Group. His presence was overwhelming, cold as ice. He didn't even look at me, walking straight toward the main seat. I rushed forward and grabbed his sleeve with all my strength. Regent, tell me this isn't real. Tell me you're not from the Jin family. My voice trembled, clinging to a final shred of hope. He stopped and turned his head. Those eyes that once held warmth and affection were now filled with endless indifference, as if he were looking at a stranger. I am Jin Ruijun, he said slowly, his voice cold. Heir to the Jin Group. You... He shook my hand off, took a document from his lawyer and threw it onto the table. This is the acquisition agreement. His voice echoed through the deathly silent room. The Vance Jin Group now belongs to the Jin family. I stared at that document, stared at the man I had been close to just last night. My world collapsed. Why? I asked hoarsely. This is business, Amara. He looked at me, a cruel smile curling at his lips. You taught me that yourself. Marriage is nothing more than a transaction. Smack. I used all my strength and slapped him across the face. The sharp sound echoed through the room. His head tilted to the side, a trace of blood appearing at the corner of his mouth. But he didn't dodge, didn't even frown. He ran his tongue over the blood, his gaze dark. Security, he ordered calmly. Escort the former chairwoman out. I was dragged away by the guards and thrown out of the building like trash. Rain poured down. I stood in the storm, soaked to the bone, staring up at that familiar floor-to-ceiling window at the top. Jin Ruijun stood there, holding a glass of red wine, looking down at me like an ant. I thought I had seen through him. Turns out, I never had. Rain mixed with tears flowed into my mouth, salty and bitter. But I didn't make a sound. I wiped the water from my face. My eyes slowly faded, replaced by a raging fire of revenge. Jin Ruijun, I swore to that towering figure above. I will destroy you with my own hands. A cheap slum district in Seoul. A cheap motel that smelled of mold. This was my home now. All my bank cards had been frozen. The sold friends, who once flattered me, now wouldn't even answer my calls. Curled up on the yellow sheets, my stomach churned. I rushed to the bathroom and retched for a long time, but nothing came up. I stared at the worn woman in the mirror. Pregnant? No. Probably just stress causing a false reaction. The TV was on, playing the news. Kim Group has taken over Vance Global. The new CEO, Kim Seo-joon, has acted decisively, purging the former board. The screen cut to Kim Seo-joon. With a blank expression, he announced the dismissal of Director Han. I frowned. Why? Wasn't Director Han his ally, Ding? My phone buzzed. An encrypted number. Want revenge. I know where Kim Group's books are vulnerable. There was a file attached. I hesitated for a moment, then opened it. It exposed an extremely well-hidden financial black hole, enough to seriously damage Kim Group.
Was this a trap? But I had nothing left. What was there to fear? I sold the only necklace my mother had left me. It was my last line of defense and my seed money. I set up a shell consulting company called Nemesis. Using that weakness, I began aggressively shorting Kim Group's subsidiaries. Like a wolf hiding in the dark, I took bite after bite out of them.
Kim Group headquarters. Kim Seo-joon stared at the reports in his hand, showing massive losses across the subsidiaries.
His assistant asked nervously, "Mr. Kim, should we shut down this consulting firm?"
Kim Seo-joon studied the familiar trading patterns. A bitter yet gentle smile curved his lips. No. His fingers brushed over the report. Let her play. Well done, my wife. Late at night, there was a knock on my door. It was Director Han, his face swollen and bruised.
"Amara, I know it's you," he cried like a beaten stray. "That madman Kim Seo-joon, he used me and tossed me aside. Let's work together. I know his weakness."
Yaoi looked at the man who once humiliated me and gave a cold smile. Come in. I switched on the recorder hidden in my sleeve. I no longer trusted anyone, but I would use anyone. 1 week later, a business cocktail reception. I arrived dressed to impress. The gown was rented, but I held my head high like a queen. I linked arms with a young investor who had just returned to the country and walked boldly into the hall. The crowd parted. Kim Seo-joon stood at the far end, swirling a glass of wine. When he saw me on another man's arm, his fingers tightened sharply around the glass, the knuckles turning white. Our eyes met in midair. Sparks flew. The mood of the reception turned strange the moment I appeared. The young investor clearly didn't know the history between Kim Rui-jun and me. He was still foolishly trying to step forward and greet him. "Mr. Kim, I've heard so much about you." Kim Rui-jun ignored the outstretched hand. His gaze locked onto me, unblinking. "Miss Vance, long time no see." "Thanks to you, Mr. Kim." I smiled brightly. "I am still alive." The music started. "A tango. Care to dance?" Kim Rui-jun held out his hand, his tone leaving no room for refusal. I wanted to say no, but something in his eyes made my heart stutter. I placed my hand in his palm. He yanked me toward him, and I crashed into his chest. The familiar scent of cedar made me dizzy for a split second. We began to spin. On the dance floor, it felt less like dancing and more like a duel. "Who was that man?" he growled near my ear, his voice tight with restrained anger. "That's none of your business," I replied coldly. "What, Mr. Kim? Are you jealous? Do you think you deserve to be?" His arm tightened, almost crushing my waist. "Amara, don't push me. I'll take back everything that belongs to me." I met his eyes, "Including what you owe me." "Then try," he said, his gaze burning. "Don't disappoint me." Suddenly,
I spotted the dismissed Korean director lurking by the railing on the second floor. He was holding something that caught the light. A gun. The barrel was aimed at Kim Roo-jun's back. My mind went blank. My body moved faster than thought. "Watch out!" I shoved Kim Roo-jun away. Bang! The shot.
thronging out.
The bullet grazed my arm, and blood splattered. Screams erupted around us. Kim Roo-jun froze. He stared at the blood on my arm, his pupils dilating as if he'd seen the most terrifying thing in the world.
"Amara!" He let out a roar like a wounded animal. The next second, he spun around, fast as lightning. He grabbed a table knife and hurled it with force. A cry echoed from the second floor. The director's hand was pinned to the railing, and the gun clattered to the ground. Kim Rui-jun didn't spare the attacker another glance. He rushed over, scooped me up, and charged toward the lounge. His hands were shaking. The once arrogant heir of a financial empire looked openly panicked. "Doctor! Get a doctor!" he bellowed. Inside the lounge, he tore his shirt and wrapped it around my wound. "Are you insane?" he shouted, eyes red. "Why did you save me? You're supposed to hate me. You should have let me die." I decided to move back. I leaned back on the sofa, pale but smiling.
"Because your life belongs to me?"
I said, looking at him. "Only I get to destroy you, no one else." Kim Woo-jin stiffened. He stared at me, his expression a storm I couldn't read.
"Regret."
Pain. Something dangerously close to love. Suddenly he bent down and kissed me hard. It wasn't gentle, it was fierce and reckless, carrying the metallic taste of blood. I didn't push him away. I bit his lip in return. Like two wounded beasts, we clung to each other, then hurt each other all over again. I shoved him away and staggered out. Outside the doors, I reached into my pocket. During the struggle earlier, I'd slipped something out of the inside pocket of his suit. I took it out and looked. I froze. It was a crumpled sheet of paper. The unfair prenuptial agreement we had signed back then. The edges were worn thin, clearly handled countless times. On the back, in his handwriting, was a single line.
"If this is hell, I'm willing to follow."
That line of text was like a key, prying open the hard ice around my heart. I started to re-examine everything. If he truly wanted to destroy me, why keep that agreement? Why did he clean out Chairman Han? Why were the accounting loopholes, the mysterious person, gave me so precise, like they came from an insider? So I went back to that cheap motel and reopened the evidence file from the leak. I have a background in computer science. Before, I'd been blinded by anger. Now that I'd calmed down, I started tracing the digital signature. Half an hour later, I sucked in a sharp breath. The signature had been tampered with. The real leaker was Chairman Han, and the timing of Jin Ri-jun's acquisition of the Vance Group. If he hadn't stepped in, given how fast the stock price was crashing, Vance would have been maliciously taken over by an overseas fund called Blackstone. And behind Blackstone was Jin Ri-jun's father, Chairman Jin. Was Jin Ri-jun moving ahead of his own father to save my company? Just then, my phone rang. An unfamiliar number. "Miss Vance," an old, cold voice. "Do you want to see your mother?" My blood turned to ice. "Who are you?" "I'm Ri-jun's father. Your mother is staying at my private care facility. She's living quite happily."
"Don't touch her."
"Whatever." "Then tell Ri-jun to stop those foolish little moves. If he dares to siphon company funds to help you again, I'll make your mother disappear." The call ended. The truth was clear. Jin Ri-jun had always been under his father's control.
He carried the blame, was abandoned by everyone, and even hurt me all to keep me and my mother alive in that ruthless family.
I rushed to the care facility like a madwoman.
It was completely empty, a nurse told me. Half an hour ago, young Master Jin sent people to take the elderly lady away. He said she was being moved somewhere safe. He was always one step ahead of me. Just then, the car radio cut in with breaking news. Internal turmoil at the Jin Group. The board has impeached CEO Jin Ri-jun, accusing him of privately misappropriating massive amounts of funds. He exposed himself to save my mother.
My phone vibrated. It was Jin Ri-jun's fiercely loyal assistant, his voice shaking with tears. "Madam, please save young master. Chairman Jin is cleaning house. Royal master is on the way to Enchang Port. The ambush is everywhere. Why, Is he going to the port? He's putting the elderly lady on a ship, sending her abroad. Tears burst from my eyes. That idiot! That liar! I spun the steering wheel hard and slammed the accelerator. The sports car's engine roared, just like my heart. Jin, hang on! If we're going to die, we'll die together! Came a night of torrential rain. The container docks at Incheon port looked like a maze of steel. Searchlights cut through the downpour. When I arrived, the scene before me was pure hell. Dozens of men in black, wielding iron bars, formed a tight circle. At the center, Kim Seo-joon knelt on one knee. He was covered in blood. His expensive suit was torn to shreds, his glasses long gone. And yet he still guarded the black sedan behind him with everything he had. Inside that car was my mother, ungrateful son. Chairman Kim stood atop a container, holding a black umbrella, looking down with cold indifference. Is it worth it for a woman? Kim Seo-joon wiped the blood from his face and staggered to his feet. His smile was sharp, desperate, and defiant. She's not just a woman. He spat out blood. She's my queen. Do it, Chairman Kim ordered with a wave. The men surged forward. Kim Seo-joon was skilled, but he was at his limit. An iron bar smashed into his back. He let out a muffled groan and fell. No! I screamed from inside the car. I had no weapon then, only the car itself. I threw it into gear and floored the accelerator. Boom! The sports car charged like an enraged bull, smashing through the barrier and plowing straight into the crowd. Several men were sent flying. I slammed the brakes and spun the wheel. I shoved the door open, gripping a massive wrench I'd grabbed from the toolbox. Rain soaked me in an instant. I stood in front of Kim Seo-joon, wrench raised high, my gaze fierce and unforgiving. Who dares touch my secretary? Silence fell over the dock. Kim Seo-joon struggled to lift his head. Still on my back, the corner of his blood-stained mouth curved into a faint smile. Wife, you're here. Shut up. We'll deal with you later, I shouted without turning around. Police sirens wailed in the distance, drawing closer by the second. On the way here, I had already called the police. I had also sent the account records given to me by that mysterious person, solid evidence of Chairman Kim's money laundering, directly to the prosecutor's office. Chairman Kim's face went pale. Retreat! The U-turned to run. Kim Seo-joon suddenly sprang up and grabbed his leg with a death grip. Running! Enjoy your retirement in prison. In the chaos, Director Han, who had been hiding in the shadows, burst out, a knife in his hand, lunging for my back. Dang! Watch out! Kim Seo-joon rolled over and threw himself behind me. A dull, sickening impact. The world went quiet. Director Han was tackled to the ground by the arriving police. Chairman Kim was dragged away in handcuffs. It was over. Kim Seo-joon collapsed, limp, into my arms. Blood spread through the rain. Seo-joon! Seo-joon! I cried, pressing down on his wound. His face was deathly pale, his consciousness fading. Seo-joon! He struggled to lift a hand, trying to touch my face. Condition 3, he whispered. What? I leaned close, tears pouring down. You have to come home for dinner. His hand fell. Seo-joon. The blue lights of the ambulance flooded the harbor. The eastward assault of the rain, but the first rain glass through on the faces to Seo-joon's decked wing. The hospital corridor reeked of disinfectant. The light outside the operating room had been on for 5 hours. I sat on a bench, still wearing the evening gown, stained with mud and blood.
My assistant reported quietly beside me. The prosecutor's office has stepped in. The Jin group has been sealed off. Old Chairman Jin and Director Han won't be getting out this time.
Vance Group's stock is rebounding. I couldn't hear a word. I stared at that door.
Without him, what use was a business empire to me? Finally.
The light went out. The doctor came out and pulled off his mask. Well, surgery was a success. No vital organs were hit, but he had lost a lot of blood and needs rest. My legs gave out, and I nearly collapsed to the floor.
3 days later, Jin Rui-jun woke up.
I was in the hospital room, working through documents. Hearing movement, I looked up at once. He blinked and instinctively felt around the bedside. "What are you looking for?"
My glasses," he said weakly. "If I don't wear glasses, I don't look like a good person."
I couldn't help laughing in anger. I walked over and pressed his hand down. "Stop acting, President Jin." He stiffened, then gave a bitter smile. Still mad enough to explode.
I took a document out of my bag. It was our divorce agreement.
The light in Jin Rui-jun's eyes dimmed instantly, like an abandoned puppy. "I understand." He turned his head away.
"I'll sign it."
"I lied to you, and I almost got you killed." Rip!
Right in front of him, I tore the agreement to shreds. Paper flakes drifted down onto the blanket like snow. He froze, staring at me in disbelief. "The contract is void," I said.
"You're kicking me out." His voice trembled. "No."
I bent down and kissed his pale forehead. "I'm signing a contract with no expiration date."
I looked straight into his eyes and said seriously, "No salary, no vacation, just me."
"Jin Rui-jun, are you willing to apply?" His eyes reddened.
The man who was ruthless in the boardroom and fearless before gangsters now cried like a child. He reached out and held my waist tightly. 1 month later. Vans, King Global Headquarters. I was in a white suit. Kim Seo-joon wore his midnight blue custom suit. We walked into the conference room side by side. The shareholders who had once betrayed me now kept their heads down, barely daring to breathe. "Let me introduce someone," I said, standing at the head of the table and gesturing to the man beside me. "My co-CEO, Mr. Kim Seo-joon." Kim Seo-joon adjusted the gold-rimmed glasses on his nose, the new pair I'd picked out for him, and gave a gentle smile that somehow still sent a chill through the room. "I look forward to working with you all."
The meeting that followed was a massacre. The fence-sitters were taken apart from both sides and completely cleared out. Kim Seo-joon folded the remaining high-quality assets of the Kim Group, its massive logistics network, into Vans Global. Together, we built the largest business empire in Asia.
Media interview. A reporter asked, "Mr. Kim, you went from secretary to co-CEO. Seo-joon turned to have a panda. The little lenders empalitate那么吃。Kim Seo-joon到那 Seo-joon that turned to went of a tuch. "There's only one secret," he said, smiling at the camera.
Listen to your wife.
"The internet, the wild, thin bag verge. In prison."
Director Han watched the news on TV, smashed his food bowl in rage, and was dragged off by guards to solitary confinement.
That night,
Back at the penthouse,
Kim Seo-joon was cooking in the kitchen, still making the same braised ribs. I stood by the floored chalet window, looking out over Seoul's night skyline.
suddenly, a wave of nausea hit me.
Kim Seo-joon dropped the spatula and rushed out.
What's wrong? Why do you feel bad? It's nothing, just a little nauseous. He froze. Then his eyes went wide. Could it be? Half an hour later, at the hospital. The doctor looked at the test results and smiled. Congratulations, Miss Vance. This time it's real. You're 6 weeks pregnant. Seo-joon was stunned. He stood there, completely at a loss, crying one moment and laughing the next. I'm going to be a dad. I'm really going to be a dad. He lifted me up and spun around in the hallway. Put me down. You're a Seo-joon. Be a little more composed. To hell with being a Seo-joon. I'm a dad ending. We stood together by the window. The lights of Seoul glittered like a river of stars. I rested a hand on my slightly rounded belly. Seo-joon wrapped his arms around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. The quarterly report is out, I said. Profits are up 300%. Not bad, he said casually, brushing a light kiss against my neck. So how should we celebrate tonight? I asked.
More braised ribs.
Little Kim Seo-joon loosened his tie and tossed it aside. He turned me round, his gaze warm and intense. The ribs can wait until tomorrow, he said, lifting me in his arms and heading for the bedroom.
Tonight, let's celebrate properly.
The curtains closed. These cards and were the Konko, shouting out the moonlit city. Down. Don't do it away.
So when the Kims are resolving on beds.
The room was accepted for Lee's Medifun. It's Flo Crisandello. You know that